So today I wanted to talk about something nude, completely naked. Not feeling good today. I've had some conflict with a really important relationship in my life, and it's something we're working on, but I'm really struggling today. And I thought it would be valuable to just post about the reality of emotion. The reality of emotion is it isn't always pretty. Sometimes it's just naked, straight out of the shower, raw feeling, boom, here you go. With relationships especially. And I just wanted to talk about some of the things that I'm going to do today to make myself A, feel better, and B, help process the emotion so that I can take this feeling, this relationship, this situation, and grow from it and learn from it and help evolve both my inner functioning as a human being, my emotional regulation, and the relationship. Because if I don't clear up my own crap, I can't come to the relationship neutral. I cannot be a neutral party in the relationship. I'm going to get triggered. I'm going to get elevated. I'm going to not be able to see clearly. And that is one of the biggest things that screws up our relationships. The first thing I do is name it. And when I say name it, I mean journal. I get out a old school pen and paper and I write down like I'm talking to someone, like this emmer effer, and I start with going into what the story is, why I'm upset, and then I start talking about my feelings, like it made me feel like this, I don't think, and then I talk about my thoughts just to myself, because journaling allows you to be completely vulnerable and open about what is really going on. And what it does is eventually it teaches you to look for those main things that are going on within you, both in your beliefs or your patterns with how you might get triggered. And so it's really valuable to help you figure out what's really going on with you and the dynamic in the relationship, and sometimes with the other person. When you're journaling, again, go describe the situation, talk about your feelings, and your thoughts. What are your thoughts? What does that lead you to believe? Or what are your current beliefs? So the next thing I do after I've written about my thoughts, beliefs, feelings, and been really honest on paper is I go back over it and I read it and I underline the areas where it's like the core, essential, bottom line of what I'm feeling like. I am afraid, like I said in this relationship I'm dealing with now, I am afraid of being vulnerable. If you journal for a while, you don't have to journal as much because you get right in there and you're just bleh, honest and naked, real. So it's really helpful. The next thing I do is I check myself. And you can do this in a number of different ways. You can check yourself with someone you really trust that has your best interests at heart. One thing I like to do is run through my thoughts through the cognitive distortion filter. Cognitive distortions are online. You can find them. There's a bunch of them. We all do them. They're just our tweaked thoughts. And it's totally normal to have some cognitive distortions. It's just when we start practicing that line of thinking, we screw ourselves because we start thinking like, oh, it always happens like this and just always da-da-da. And so then we end up getting ourselves in a funkier feeling place, worse feeling place, and adding to some beliefs that may not be true, and we're just erroneous in our thinking. Check myself, like, where am I doing that? Am I doing that? I also look for patterns. So I'll look and see, is this something that I typically do? Is this my go-to? That I start feeling like I'm the victim based on my beliefs, or once I've started to identify my beliefs. Look for patterns. And then the last check I do kind of goes back to the idea of journaling, which is, am I getting to the root of this? And, like a lot of times we go bleh, verbally vomit, or we have a mind barf on someone else or the relationship, but we're not getting to the truth of it within ourselves. So I go back to that. Am I really getting to the root of this, or is there more? The third thing is a little more complex. What I've already done today actually is It's the express it phase, I should say. Name it first. So you're gonna name it, you're gonna check yourself, and then you're gonna express, or really what I should call process, because it's not just expression. So the first part of processing, for me at least, is to express it. I find that I need to talk to process some of my feelings and emotions. And so if I have a friend or my husband or someone or my mom, somebody close to me that I can trust to just be there and listen, and I tee it up to them and I say, hey, I just need you to listen. I don't want you to give me advice. I just want you to be empathetic and really hear me and maybe reflect back to me what I'm saying. The other part of processing your emotions, like for me today, one of the things I'm going to do are these tools that I have, these emotional processing tools. A tool, I should say, called the C technique, and they're acronyms for these emotional processing tools. I'll probably do another video on those because they're too long to talk about. It's basically, those get you in touch, sort of allow you to separate yourself enough from the feeling to be able to almost like physically process them. I'm going to butcher them right now if I try to explain them, but I will use one of those techniques today for sure. Or Byron Katie's thework.com. That's a really good tool as well. The last thing I'm going to do today, just for myself, to help myself feel better, is I'm going to reframe it. Woo woo. Reframing is fun, and all reframing means is that I will take the way that I'm looking at the situation after I've identified it, checked myself, processed it, is I'm going to take the situation and I'm going to look at it differently. I'm going to say, how else can I, what else could this be, this situation? Like if I'm looking at the situation and it's a pen, yeah, it's a writing tool, but maybe it could be a dart. Maybe it could be, I don't know, maybe I could do something with my hair, put it in my hair. So what could you do, or how could you look at the situation differently from a different angle so that it could be something else? And what I find, okay, maybe not a hairdo, but what I find really works for me is these tough relationships, these days when I'm like, I'm not putting on makeup, I'm barely getting out of my jammies, I am not feeling good. These days of feeling bad are opportunities to feel even better, because I know if I go in there and I really get clear with my emotions and I honor them and I express them and I process them and I find, okay, where is this coming from? Ooh, how could I change that? How could I reframe that? What do I need to do some more work on? It leads me to a better place, a more neutral place, with the emotion within myself, with the space in the relationship, and with how I see and hold the other person. Going back to the idea of reframing is, how can I hold this differently? And holding it like this is a growth opportunity for me. There is something here that I am going to learn, because even if the person that I'm dealing with is the most difficult relationship, even if the problem I'm dealing with is the most, this is going to grow me. This is going to make all the relationships or situations that aren't quite as bad easier. This is going to help me with my work. Relationships are all over the place in work, right? Especially my work. So I look at it like, ooh, this is an opportunity. And I actually, once you do some processing and stuff, you will be able to reframe the situation better and easier. As you do these kind of tools, like the naming, the checking, the processing, the reframing, you will find that you will more quickly be able to go from, oh, I'm onto myself, like, oh, I'm doing that thing again, to myself in my own head that's ruining the communication here with someone. And you'll be able to go through these stages of really processing and feeling better, easier. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed my completely naked, at least makeupless, raw emotion, blah, of ways to help you help yourself when you're not feeling good.